Good morning, and welcome to Berg Mountain Optional University, where Thursdays this spring semester we cover #calculations for tomorrow, tools in mathematics delving into the number 7, an interpretation of the 17th Amendment and the reality of artificial intelligence. We hope you come along with us.
Preface / numbers and shapes. What are numbers but of something or things united with similar attributes seen in all? As we divide and collect parts of this infinite universe into manageable bodies we perceive. Of what we often ask ourselves of other people, places, and things in the world and beyond what they are, as the essence of them is what's sought. This thing or things perceived is thought in the world where 50 men at attention are also 5 companies of 10 soldiers, or of cupcakes 4 dozen with 2 remaining, but both are figments of mankind. Saying 10 of these or 12 of another are this or that is but from one position which may understood, but it also might not.
As there is no such thing as a Congress without those who Senate, the province Congresses formed in colonies where extralegal bodies resulted to protect those holding that the right to govern comes from the governed. There are 3 waves of Senate. In 1791, 6 years passed since the Second Continental Congress requiring Class 1 senator elections. As states had 2 senators, Vermont's admittance ensured a Class 1 and allowed an initial 4-year Class 3 as opposed to a 2-year Class 2 position. The 3rd year of Washington's presidency was the 6th from the Second Continental Congress. With 3 classes of Senate where each sits 6 years, every other year sees another Senate class election. Set up structurally as in Great Britain, with governors likened to kings, Governor's Council to the House of Lords and the Colonial Assembly to the Commons, we needed a George to preside then and Henry to Senate now.
The First Continental Congress, 9/5, October 26, 1774, representatives from 12 of the 13 colonies united under a common cause of protest at Carpenter's Hall in Philadelphia, PA. At the second, May 10, 1775, with 12 of 13 represented, a national de facto government was formed to prepare defensive strategy physically through militia, actually with diplomats, and literally through documentation of causes for rebellion with an olive branch. We say that to say one is not without two, where the third with the Lee resolution would see a claim of independence by 13 and 7 years battle to victory.
Introduction / signs and symbols. Units of wood, states, men, or scoops of ice cream where each is 3-dimensional, occupies space and has volume. Signs and symbols used are for weights and measures, so we may have an understanding of things we perceive physically as buildings of brick and mortar, but also building not made with man's hands. As President of the Senate, the Vice President heads artificial intelligence whose legislation, like the Leviathan, has an insatiable appetite for more. Today, the Senate is housed in our nation's capital, with state senates in lower houses meeting at state capitals, but before it was but a figment held in minds. We remember numbers from their associating with things where counting to 13 was an accomplishment for many, then to associate sovereign over the land other than the king, George III at the time. Signs and symbols representing things in the world could also in the mind where mathematics only resides. Multiplication by 50, we do so numerically, but alphabetically the 13 colonies which became states had 26 senators from A, Z, Greek numerals A equals 1 and Z equals 7, but AI in earlier days, 17. Senators supporting a body's natural growth is artificially intelligent, unable to direct in a manner inconsistent in their eyes with the greater good of all. Taxing, enforced through counties, we ask ourselves again, units of what?
With states we consider geography, which similar to geometry, with the former actual dimensions of naturally formed areas in the world and the latter general shapes or concepts in the mind. The belief that the world is flat or round is as well from perspective where flat level surfaces have been since the beginning of the law of man, which champions geometry. The law of nature has formed geography into the land, rivers, mountains, peninsulas, valleys, and etc. we see today, but making sense of the world and for better comprehension we square and quarter our natural world. The magnitude of the natural world's approach to infinity ensures an elusive attempted grasp, but impossible. Man is humbled by a necessity for shelter from, when nature and man come in conflict, and survival is an only motivation. Within states of nature the law of man was installed to bring more order in the wilderness and insurance against the chaotic law nature supports. As blizzards, hurricanes, and other storms are measured by meteorologists, so too are social movements as citizenry migrate to polls to vote for senatorial and other representative government.
States have size as far as area and in population, where Alaska has the greatest area and Rhode Island has least, while California is most populous but Wyoming the least. Configurations of the mind. State boundaries are only so from property lines claimed from 34°59' N to 36°41' N and west of the Appalachians Mountains to the Mississippi River, for example. Space from all claimed was reinforced by individual property claims by those who fell under previously claimed jurisdiction, and thus Congress there collected from residents taxes from which state capitol buildings were to architects commissioned what was only in theory. The Fujo cent or Franklin cent, minted in 1787, copper, the US first read "Mind your business." From states, Congress was due taxes in US dollars, which the Coinage Act of 1792 established a mint to control bullion movement, basing the US dollar on the Spanish silver dollar used 100 years prior. Bullion, or as in gold or royalty, had to be controlled in democratic society, which was done so by AG, alpha 1 and gamma 3 equals 13, silver. The mint at the then capital of the Union in Philadelphia was the first building under the Constitution to be raised. Area and population were supplemented by economics, which controlled by Federalists, where in order to collect distribution was prerequisite.
Making sense of our universe man divides from the rest of the cosmos. Things collected he can comprehend as one's sense of artificial intelligence might not supersede another's at that time, but calculations for tomorrow, tools in mathematics attempts to cover.
That's all the information we have for you at this time. The concept of number demands a question of how many of what. Chapter 1 next session covers what ought be known of circles. We hope to see you there. Thank you for your time and consideration.